Hello and welcome to the Artist Review, a podcast brought to you by the Wilson County News, where we interview artists and entertainers from our community. You'll see many of the people on this show appear in the print edition of our monthly arts and entertainment section, but this is your inside look. I'm your host, Julia Weaver, and today I'm joined by Luke Prater. He's 22 years old and has been playing the guitar since he was in diapers. He sang at church growing up and made his entrance to the country music scene in 2018 with his self-titled EP. Since then, he has been touring, writing and recording new music, and playing upwards of 100 shows per year. His music is uniquely melodic, guitar-focused, and reminiscent of the 90s guitar trios. Hello, Luke, and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us today for the Artist Review. This episode is sponsored by C Street Gift Shop. Located in downtown Floresville, Texas, we've got everything you're looking for. From boutique-style clothing finds and accessories, home decor, and gourmet food items from Texas-based companies, we've got you covered with the perfect gift for your loved one. Or for you. Shop in-store at 1012 C Street in Floresville, Texas, or visit us online at www.cstreetgiftshop.com.
So let's start with some basic stuff. Can you tell me about where you're from?
Absolutely. So now I live off of 775 right past where I grew up, about 5 minutes from where I grew up, but I grew up in Legacy Ranch in Vernia, which is only about 20 minutes from here.
Nice, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And for context purposes, here is the offices of the Wilson County News located in downtown Floresville,
Yes,
Texas.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
All right. So, growing up in Legacy Ranch, would you say that's more of like country suburbs?
So now the neighborhood's packed out, but when I grew up, we were one of like 5 houses in the neighborhood. It was just getting started, and we had a creek in the backyard. While it was a subdivision, we definitely felt like we were in the country because we were in the backyard playing with mud all day. So
Super fun.
definitely out in the country. And my grandma had about 80 acres in Stockdale, and she had horses and donkeys and cows and all that stuff. So we definitely got our country fix between the creek in the backyard and my grandma's pastures, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, ma'am.
And that Texas ranch experience with the horses and whatnot.
That's right.
So, do you feel like where you grew up affects the music that you're writing and playing today?
Absolutely. Down to my single right now being called Home. And everywhere I play a show, my intro to that song is, I'm from a little small town outside of San Antonio, Texas called Vernia, Texas. And this song's kind of about where I'm from and where I plan to call home for the next little while and where I grew up. So, yes, ma'am. Yeah, in every single way, I think I'm influenced by the little small town that I grew up in.
Cool.
Yes, ma'am.
And so, when did you first start singing or playing the guitar? I know earlier I said when you were in diapers, but realistically, what age did that look like?
Well, I was in my 2nd grade talent show. I played a little country song called Kansas City. And then I think in 4th grade, I did the talent show again, just playing guitar. Another Merle Haggard song called Working Man Blues. Started singing. There was a guy at church one night. I think his voice went out or couldn't make it or something, and there was an empty slot for a singer. So I ended up. It was horrible, but I ended up filling his slot. And I think I was 14 at the time, and that was the first time I thought, hey, maybe this is something I could work on. Or I definitely need to work on if I'm gonna try to do anything with it. And then, not too long after that, I started playing for free at a little steakhouse. I think now it's called Melanie's. At the time, it was called Tejas Steakhouse.
Okay.
But yes, ma'am. Yeah, pretty early on.
And so it sounds like guitar playing came first for you.
Absolutely. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. So we'll plug my dad in here. He moved to Nashville when he was 17. Even further back than that, his dad was a guitar player and played on a couple records in Nashville way back in the day. And so he got my dad started really early. My dad went to Nashville. It's super competitive over there. So he was over there for about 6 months, I think, moved on back home and got a normal job and had me I'm the youngest of 3 boys. So he had my 2 older brothers, then he had me, and he had us all. Diapers is pretty realistic. We were all, not that it was any decent playing, but we were all babies with guitars in our hands for sure. And it was kind of a snowball effect of my oldest brother, who now is my bass guitar player and music director for my band. He picked it up first, then my other older brother, Grant, he picked it up at the same time, and I just wanted to be like both of them. They were both playing guitar, and I just wanted to know everything that they had, so we all kind of just put our ideas together and all of our little riffs and had our practice time together, and yes, that's what that came down to.
And so, how musically involved would you say you were growing up?
Musically involved.
Yeah.
Expand on that.
All right. Well, I know you sang in the church choir. Did you ever do stuff like in school with the school choir, or maybe marching band or anything like that?
Sure. So I was in and out of the Vernia district for pretty much all of the years leading up to high school, and then I ended up going to a co-op, which was like kind of half homeschooled. It was really like a college deal. I went in once a week and got all my work, and then came back the next week, turned in my work from the week before, and got the next week's. But before that, I was kind of in and out of being homeschooled. I used to have real bad migraines, so I missed a ton of school. But as far as the school, I think there was about a 3 or 4 month period in junior high, 6th grade probably. I wanted to be an alto sax player. I really just wanted to learn how to read sheet music, and I got let down on both of the dreams of being a sax player and reading sheet music, as I still don't know how.
Oh no.
Yes, ma'am.
Would you say that learning to read sheet music is in your goals for one day?
I mean, maybe so. The way that I write charts out now for the songs that I write, and I present them to the musicians that play on my records, is not in the form of sheet music. It's in like tablature or the Nashville number system, which is
right.
a little different than that. But sure, I would certainly. She can read more of it. Referring to she as my fiance sitting here. She can read more sheet music than I can. I'm just, more a seat of my pants kind of guy.
How sweet. Not to get off topic, but I didn't know that you were also musically involved, Hannah.
Yeah, I played piano when I was younger. I played the oboe for 15 years. My mother is a singer. I played handbells in choir, all kinds of music. So I can read sheet music better than he can, but he can play every instrument better than I can. So.
And she also played with the Houston Symphony, playing the oboe.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's some big bucks.
It was to me. I thought that was neat.
That's very neat. So it seems like you guys kind of balance each other out musically.
Sure.
You've got one area covered, and he's got the other.
Sure enough.
How cute. I love it. Going back to you, do you remember your feelings about music and how it fit into your world when you were younger?
Yeah, absolutely. It probably was my world when I was younger. Aside from playing in the dirt in the backyard, like it was my best friend growing up was my guitar. It's still to this day, it was my therapy, my place of solace. I could just go. There's no judgment. It's like an open world of things that you can learn. But yeah, no, it really, I don't know. I found so much interest in it, and I still do. It's just, there's an infinite amount of knowledge that you can grasp for in music. And if you walk in my living room, there's like 8 instruments out, and some of them I can play decent, some of them I can't at all, but there's so much room to learn in the instance that I want to sit down and learn something new. There's just infinite possibilities of things to learn,
Well, in your time experimenting with guitar playing and stuff like that, is country the only genre that you've ever learned to play?
No, for sure. We were at the lake this weekend, and there was a jazz band playing at this restaurant, and I was telling her, the chord progressions they're playing are so interesting. I really don't know anything about them. Jazz is a whole nother world, but me and my brothers, we grew up listening to a lot of like classic rock. My dad's a big into workout dude. He's got like 23-inch biceps. He's just yoked. And he listens to nothing but classic rock when he works out. So we grew up knowing all of that, and still in the car I listen to a lot of old classic rock. So we learned a lot of those kind of basic Crazy Train and Back in Black, all those like you think are super cool rock songs when you're growing up.
Of course.
And cool transition from that now is we have a 8-minute segment in our live show where it's nothing but, I don't sing any of the lyrics, but it's just song after song after song. I think it's something like 10 songs that we just go through and play all of the head licks of the song, like
Okay.
the notable licks. So
Yeah, so
that,
like a medley.
yes, ma'am. Yeah, that's
Okay.
what we call it. It's actually on YouTube. You can go look it up. Luke Prater Rock Medley.
Very cool. So you do that in every single show?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
Yes, ma'am. And it's good to show like diversity to people.
I agree.
Because there's a lot of folks who just aren't into country music, but I can get them on my side of the court if I play them a little bit of Ozzy Osbourne or something, you know?
Of course. Do you feel like classic rock has maybe made its way into some of your own writing?
Probably so, yeah. Yeah, if you listen to some, I've got a song called Don't Take My Guitar, and when we were kind of doing the pre-production for the song, just getting everything, figuring out what instruments we wanted on the song, what vibe we were going for with it, we referenced, there's a ZZ Top song called Full for Your Stockings, and if you listen to it, if anybody gets a wild hair, you can go A-B, my song Don't Take My Guitar, and that ZZ Top song, and the way, kind of weird, nerdy production stuff, but the way that the first 5 to 10 seconds it pans from one side of the speaker to the next side of the speaker with two different guitars playing like the same lick.
Yeah.
We pulled directly from that, so I think that's just a testament to your question. Like, absolutely, it has an effect on me.
Love to see that experimentation with, unique sounds in this world of country music. But how do you feel about country pop and country rap and all that?
So it's interesting because I was just gonna say on the same token of my country being rock or anybody's being rock or having that influence, I'm also very critical of a lot of the stuff that I hear that is actually, it sounds more like rock than country rather than country with a little bit of influence from rock. That's just my personal feeling. I'm not the biggest fan of it. If I want to listen to rock, I'm going to go listen to rock somewhere.
Yeah.
And again, there's artists that do a great job with it, and I'm not knocking that. Country pop, most of it, I'm not the biggest fan of, but I respect any man making a living for his family. And if that's the market that he, I don't know, can best suit his performance for his audience, and if that's what does the best for him, then I respect it for sure. Not my favorite, not my preference, but anybody who's doing well in this industry, as inconsistent as it is, happy for him. Those poppy songs, it's not a bad thing. Like for them or the record label, they're just super catchy. It's not the most elaborate songwriting, but it does get stuck in your head.
Exactly.
So.
It's like comparing that to, a score of music for
right.
a classical song. It's definitely a little bit boring, but it's that catchiness that kind of brings the focus back to the country scene. So, where you are now in your life, in your performance career, is this where you envisioned yourself to be years ago?
It's interesting. I have a lot of windshield time, right? Just staring out the windshield, looking at the road from wherever I am, and I talk to my brother a lot. And the thought comes up, or the statement, like, if I was 15 and I told myself I was here, I was doing this, my mind would be blown. I met Hannah here, my fiance, at Green Hall on July 30th, and it was a sold-out show at Green Hall. I'm going to just go completely, I'm going to give fine details, okay?
All right.
Weird. We got done that night, and so sellout at Green Hall is 800 people, max capacity is 1,200. I think we had something like 1,000 people there.
Wow.
I opened for Curtis Grimes, left that night. For those of you aspiring artists who would like to play Green Hall as an opener, the opening band makes $200
Nice.
on a 1,000. Well,
I
when you have guys to pay, when your overhead's $500-$600,
right,
and you take a loss on a show. So to that point, if I were to tell myself that I would have played Green Hall at 21, I wouldn't have believed you. But if you would have told me that it came with a $200 paycheck, maybe that would have made a little more sense, We didn't drive off in a tour bus, but we did play Green Hall sold out. So, I don't know. I'm very blessed and very fortunate to be where I am in life, and it's more than I could have ever hoped for. Usually every weekend I'm in a circumstance that is more than I could have ever asked for. Um, but again, we're not driving off in a big old tour bus, so same.
All right, well, not to go too off track here, but you did mention that you met dear Hannah here a year ago at Green Hall, at that notable performance of yours.
Yes, ma'am.
That was your first time playing at Green?
Yes, ma'am.
And so, could you tell us a little inside hint about the love story?
Sure.
How did she find you among the crowd and everyone?
Oh, I'll tell you.
How did she stand out?
I'll tell you. Well, look at her.
Very true.
So I'll contextualize by saying, before I met her, it was the best night of my life. I had so many of my friends and family that I grew up with, so many of my friends that I had gone to Green Hall with as a kid.
Yeah.
So it was already, I had gotten off stage from my performance and the place was sold out, just packed, and it was all my friends and family the first couple rows. There's Luke Prater shirts everywhere you looked. It was so cool. I had done the national anthem at the start of Curtis's set and gone back to my merch booth, which is right next to Curtis's. And anyway, I was standing there just trying to do my thing and sell as much as I could. And this girl comes up to me and she asked if I could give a birthday shout out to one of her friends. And I said, sure, I'll see if I can make that happen or not. And I don't know, I feel like she asked me for Curtis Grimes merch or something. And I said, oh, I'm actually my own artist. This is my stuff here. And she's like, oh my goodness, whatever. I ended up going back on about 3/4 of the way through Curtis's set to go play keyboard for Curtis's set. And I went back over to there's a talkback microphone because everybody's wearing ears, in-ear monitors. So you can talk into it, everybody can hear each other. And I said, hey, we got a birthday for Matt. Somehow that message didn't get relayed as Matt didn't get a birthday shout out. But I was standing, if you were looking at the stage, I was on the left side. If you were looking from the stage, I was on the right side. And she was about 35 foot in front of me, kind of off to the right. And there was a worship portion of the set that Kurt still does, which I think is really cool. I don't know if we'll get into it or not, but I'm a believer. Anyway, we were singing some Christian songs, and that girl who I had just talked to at the merch booth was out in the middle of Green Hall worshiping her heart out, and I thought that was the coolest thing. She was obviously just stunning. And anyway, I knew where my dad was, I knew where my brother was, and I knew where this girl was who I had only met once before in my life. And anyway, the rest of the night I just couldn't. I was trying not to mess up the chords that I was playing on the keyboard because I had this stunning woman looking at me the whole time. And anyway, I got off stage and we met back up and we were talking. Really felt like I had known her, which is weird. It felt like I had known her while I was looking at her on stage, or while she was looking at me on stage. I guess I don't know. And anyway, I got off stage and was talking. We were having a great conversation. This group of bachelorette ladies came up and they wanted to take some pictures and stuff. And I told Hannah, I said, hey, go meet me back over at the merch booth. Because I had no interest in any of these other girls and I had all of my interest in Hannah. And anyway, I did exactly as I told her and went back to the merch booth after. And she was sitting there waiting. And she ended up buying a shirt from me. She asked me if the shirt came with my phone number, and I told her it did, absolutely. And that was the end of it. I left that night, and I remember telling my brother in the truck, I was like, I met this girl that is something else, man. I'll tell you what. I know we just got done with Green Hall, the biggest show of my entire life, but I can't stop talking about this girl. And anyway, we can go into that as long as you want to. It's a whole love story that leads up to us getting married this Thursday. But yeah, that was the how we met story.
Well, very sweet.
Yes, ma'am.
And smooth with a t-shirt,
Right?
phone number.
Yeah, classic.
Very. Or, have you written any songs about her yet?
Oh, absolutely. And there's really 3 of them that are strictly about Hannah. One called Hannah Marie, one called Land on Mine, the other one called Other Side of This Drive, and I'll be playing them all at my wedding this Thursday.
How sweet.
Yes,
So you're
ma'am.
playing your own wedding.
Yes, ma'am. A little bit. So
Okay.
there's about an hour and a half like time segment just for music. So I'm gonna do 2 songs in the beginning, 2 songs at the end, and then in the middle of all of that, I've got 6 of my buddies who are country music artists: Curtis Grimes, Brandon Radersdorf, Dylan Riley, Hector Alvarado, Matt Hartman, Tristan Federick. I think that's it. Great artists, all of them, and great people. But we're just going to do them all acoustic. So I'm going to do 2 in the beginning, 2 in the end. They're all going to do 3 apiece in the middle. So it should be pretty cool, especially for the people there who like don't get to listen to music often. I think that'll be cool for them. They get a little variety show, you know?
That's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to have like my band just up there and then have guys play behind them, but you're like, man, I'd rather, I don't know, there's something sweet about acoustic, you know, at a wedding.
It gives it more of like a romantic feeling.
Yeah,
in
intimate,
general.
for sure.
Oh yeah. So let's backtrack a little bit. Not to take the focus away from love, because we love
sure.
that. But when was the first time that you performed on stage? I think you mentioned it in passing a little while ago.
First time that I performed on stage. That's a good question. I don't know if a talent show counts, then the 2nd grade talent show at Vernia Primary.
Sure.
If it doesn't, then I was 15, and if you pass through New Berlin, do you know where New Berlin is?
Yeah.
If you pass through, right past I think it's now Rabel's, it was Britsky's at the time.
Okay.
There's a little city hall, I think, like Chamber of Commerce, something. They have a big building, like, out behind. It's like an awning. And I played out there for tips one night for, it was a family member's event that was happening, and I made $88 in tips, and I thought I was rich when I left that night. But it was a Peggy Howell memorial that I played. It was a fish fry.
Sweet.
And I set up with 1 amp, and I had my microphone plugged into the amp, and it all sounded horrible, but they cheered and all that, and I thought, this is pretty neat. I want to keep doing it, you know?
That's awesome.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
so that performance at what is now Rebels, that was what, like 7 years ago?
Something like that. Yeah, I was 15, so
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty nuts.
And so how did being on stage and singing to, a crowd of people feel for you then? Were you nervous? Were you more excited about it and then nervous after the fact? Or
Definitely nerve-wracking. In the beginning, it was, again, I have 2 older brothers. The oldest, he's been a worship leader forever. Now he's full-time a part of my band, but he seemed to be just completely comfortable on stage, no problem at all. And then I was a little more shy. And my middle brother, Grant, he was always the one telling his friends. And that's kind of a lot of what inspired me to start playing Texas country music was him telling his buddies, oh, hey, he can play this Randy Rogers song. Hey, he can play this Casey Donahue song. So he was a huge proponent for me just getting up and jamming so they could have a good time and just have some music. So I think at that performance in particular, he was the one who was nudging me, like, come, just bring your guitar, just set up a case, and we'll pass around a bucket for tips, and, like, it'll be fun. And I think probably looking back, I don't recall too vividly, but I was probably shaking out of my boots at the time. But it was fun. I had my dad there and my uncle and a bunch of other family, and they all came up and jammed out with me on stage and all that. So it was probably a mixture between a lot of nerves and a lot of excitement.
Very cool.
Yes, ma'am.
And so how does performing feel to you now? Like, has that changed any since you've had more experience on stage?
Sure. Absolutely. Now it's really a technical thing where I'm worried about every little second of our 90-minute set that we're playing or our 2-hour set. I'm kind of have become like a perfectionist and really just when I have my in-ears in, I'm really just trying to figure out anything that anybody is playing wrong in my band, including myself, or anything that I'm singing wrong, to fix it for the next time. So I'm usually all in my head at a show. I'm doing everything I can and interacting with the crowd and having a good time and trying to put on the best performance. But as far as how it feels to me, I still get excited. We get to play a lot of really neat venues. So those are always cool, and it's like a warm feeling inside, especially when people are having a good time and jamming out, but not too much of nerves happening anymore. Green Hall, I was a little nervous, though, I'll tell you.
Okay, all right.
Yes, ma'am.
And so we keep talking about your band, but we haven't said who all is in your band other than you and your oldest brother.
Sure, yes, ma'am. So we'll lead with him. His name is Luke Prater, and he plays bass guitar, and he does all of the technicals. So there's a lot of nerd work that goes on the back end that him and I do with, we take a laptop with us everywhere that we go. We run software similar to the Audacity you're running here, and we pull straight from the board, and our whole rack is wireless and all this different stuff. So I need him to make sure that whole ship is afloat while I'm singing, or if anything jumps time behind me.
Yeah.
David Simmons is my drummer, and I've known David since I was in youth group at church, and we were on the youth band together. So we're pretty locked in, is what I tell people. Like, we've played together just hundreds and hundreds of hours over the years. And there's another guy, he's actually full-time with Curtis, but anytime he's off the road with Curtis, he comes and plays with us. His name is Zachary Rogers, and he plays keyboard. He's a multi-instrumentalist. He's such a talented guy. He'll be performing at our wedding too, with me and with Curtis. He plays it all, but for me, he plays keys and he sings harmonies.
Very cool.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's the whole band.
That's the whole band. That's
awesome.
it.
All right, so back to you. How did you know that the performing life was for you? Is that what you had originally intended for your musical endeavors?
Yeah. Well, let's see. In high school, I think I was trying to figure out if I really could do it, if I could spread my wings and pay my rent with this. So that kind of became my goal, was to by senior year to have a self-sustaining career enough to justify being able to move out or not pursuing another occupation as hard as I would this one. And by the grace of God, I ended up doing a semester and a half at Northeast Lakeview Community College. By that time, I was spending so many hours a week studying and trying to just get decent grades. But I was making a full-time living playing music, and I was kind of having to push off shows and not take phone calls and stuff because I was in school. And I thought, this doesn't feel right if this is the only thing that I want to do anyway, and it's working well enough, it's making hardly enough to live, then this is what I ought to just put my anchor down and do. And so after a semester and a half, I dropped that, and I had shows lined up for months and months, and I felt pretty secure. That was it. I pulled my ticket over at community college, and I moved out of my parents' house and started renting this place. And that was 4 years ago now. And by the grace of God, I hadn't sank or anything, and things are going pretty well.
That's good to hear.
Yes, ma'am.
So as a performer, there is a lot of insecurity with financials and stuff like that.
Sure.
So how do you handle that? I mean, it must bring up a lot of anxiety for you.
Oh, yeah. I would assume. For sure. Absolutely. So my dad's, he owns an appliance company called Prater Appliance, and they've been in business for almost 30 years. And so a lot of my struggles in being self-employed, I can kind of vent onto my dad. And what you're getting to with that question is, you're making your own paycheck. The anxiety that you have from not having somebody else just on a certain date write that check for you, how do you deal with that? And my dad's thing, if I were to call him right now, he'd say you just outwork the stress. If you're worried about it, you feel like you're not doing enough, or you're stressed out about a paycheck or whatever, you can only do as much as you can do. If you're a believer like I am, like we are, then you believe that God has your steps ordered, and that if you give 100% of your effort, if you do everything that you can, that everything's going to be okay. On the business side of things, this is a very interesting line of work in terms of finances. There's some nights that make more than you ever thought you would. There's some nights you thought was going to make anything and you end up losing a lot. So on that side of it, I'll punch on. Last year, we had the opportunity to go out and tour with a guy named Curtis Grimes, and he took us to 12 different states and something like 100 some odd shows. Really, really great venues, and I learned a lot from him on the music side of things, on the performer side of things, but the most that I learned was the business side of things. He's been doing it for 13 years, and I think the biggest secret or tip that I could pull from just a summary of everything that I learned with him was stash away everything that you can when stuff is doing good. Just save, and budget well. Because that keeps everything just kind of consistent. You know, if you have a really good night and you go out and buy a lot of really nice stuff, then you have a bad night and now you owe a bunch of money for all the stuff that you just bought. Yeah. Instead of just trying to average out the year and budget like you should and not go crazy.
Makes sense.
But yes, ma'am, budgeting is probably the biggest help to my anxiety.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
So do you ever, or did you ever have any doubts or setbacks, on the topic of insecurities? And if so, how did you get past them?
Sure. When COVID hit for the first time, or I don't know if it even had multiple waves, but if it was all just one continual wave, but the moment that it dropped, I was in Colorado with my buddies. We were just hanging out, and I had played a show on the way up to Colorado, and then I had one show in Fort Worth on the way home from Colorado at the Mule Barn in Justin, Texas. And we were at a movie theater. I want to say it was like Thursday in Colorado. We got out of the movie theater. It was like we were all on Facebook, and it was the world's closing down, like stuff's shutting down. You got to wear a mask, do all this stuff. I went back to the place we were staying. We packed up everything. We headed to Fort Worth. We weren't even sure that the show at Fort Worth was going to happen. It ended up happening. There was, a fair amount of people. And that was the last show I played for, I think, like 3 or 4 months, at an actual venue. I ended up doing some private parties and stuff.
Yeah.
But within the span of a week, I lost about 60 shows that I had booked. And I'll touch back on the anxiety. One of the only things that subsides my anxiety fully is looking at a full calendar. It's just knowing that until this day, everything is completely fine. I had finally had that for probably the first time. 60 days is quite a bit. It was almost like the whole year.
Yeah.
That was thanks to a couple resorts and stuff that I just had just a bunch of reoccurring dates. Anyway, those all dropped in about a week, and that's probably the most stressed out I've ever been in my life. That was about a year after I moved out. So I thought everything was smooth sailing, I'm good, and I got all these dates, and
then the COVID bomb.
And then bam, it hit. And, again, by the grace of God, there were so many just really nice, cool people who decided they wanted to have a party in their backyard and pay me to come out and play. And it just mysteriously, somehow I ended up making it through all of that onto the other side. But I would say that was my biggest setback for sure.
Wow. I mean, that's a pretty big setback.
Yes, ma'am.
So those backyard shows and stuff like that pretty much is what got you out of it, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it got me through it 100%.
That's awesome.
There's a fella named, hopefully he sees something about this in the paper. His name is Perry Parsons, and he lives right here in Floresville. And I was one of the reoccurring private parties. He's got a place he calls Paradise. And and just, every couple weeks or so, just go out there and play some shows.
All right, so you mentioned earlier one of the things that helps you ease your anxiety as a performer who is, living off those paychecks from those shows is seeing your full calendar. So earlier in your introduction, I stated you play upwards of 100 shows a year on average, right? There are only 52 weeks in a year. How do you do that?
Phone calls and emails galore, just doing everything. You have no idea how many things I'm subscribed to to get leads for shows and how many people I'm calling on a regular basis. Just, hey, I'm trying to get a pulse on whatever the shows are looking like in this area. And I'm affiliated with 3 different booking agents in order to just keep as many. If it was up to me, I'd play seven shows a week, or more if I could. I'd be happy to. But the music is really fun as far as performing live, and setting up really isn't that bad of a job. Driving in the middle of the night really ain't that bad. I don't mind it. Booking shows, lo and behold, if anybody knows or not, is my entire job, is just making sure that the days are in the books.
Wow.
And that's definitely the hardest part of it, and always has been.
Right. So
Yes,
how
ma'am.
do you keep up with that? Like, what does a week in your life look like?
It's seriously emails all of the time and responding. There's always leads out, and there's always leads coming in, and so it's just a constant, cycle of people calling me and me calling people and getting an email here and sending an email there. But it's just a whole lot of reaching out for sure. I've got a Excel spreadsheet. It's got 350 venues on it with contacts and the current status of me reaching out to them, whether I've emailed or called or heard back or anything.
Yeah.
So yes, ma'am. It's a lot of keeping up with all of these venues and just trying to keep reaching out.
And so how do you fit songwriting and recording into that busy schedule of performing?
Sure. Songwriting is definitely therapeutic for me. Or there'll just be something on my. I guess that would feed into the therapy thing too. But in a positive or negative connotation, I'll have something on my mind, whether it's infatuation for her or hate for stress or whatever. The best way for me to try to verbalize that as best as I can is always songwriting. And sometimes it's not even writing a melody as much as just I've got something on my guitar that I think sounds really cool and it fits a really cool vibe. And I try to get it out that way.
So when did you write your first song?
That's a good question. I'm going to say 7 or so. Something about falling out of the blue sky, and I bet my mom has it framed up somewhere. Yeah.
That's sweet. What kept you on that songwriting path and made it more of a serious goal for you to eventually record and release your own music?
5th grade, we had it was a project for, I think the topic was the Hunger Games, and I think we had 60 different things that we could choose from that were all kind of artistic ways to summarize something about the book or a certain chapter in the book. And I ended up writing a song with a friend of mine. I couldn't even tell you what it was called or how any of it went, but I performed it for the class, and that was really probably my first performance was in 5th grade. But I don't know, from that point on, that was a song, and it wasn't very good, but it was all together, and it had 3 verses and a chorus and a bridge, and it seemed like a full product. So I think from there, it was a hobby but habitual, just trying to seeing all these other guys, Cody Johnson and Randy Rogers and whoever else, they've got a Rolodex of songs that they've written.
Yeah.
And so I think at a certain point, I came to terms with myself that I may not be the best songwriter, or I may be, but whatever the case, I have to do it. I have to just put in the reps, and that's what I read from a lot of people too, was just like anything, it's a skill that's acquired with time and practice. And so I've got just notes and notes. If this was back in the day, I would have journals and journals and journals full, but now it's like phones. I've got my first phone and my second phone and my third phone are all just full of thousands of just almost written songs or completely written, or I forgot I wrote this song, or but yeah, no, it just probably something I just put my head to the grindstone with, and now it has become because it's a little more fluent. Whether it's decent or not is a topic all its own, but it's definitely a lot easier to just get it out if I'm feeling something, you know.
That's cool.
Yes, ma'am.
So when you write songs, do you usually come up with the lyrics first, or is it more of like a melody and then lyrics come later kind of deal?
I think because I'm such a music guy, it's usually a music, even if it's a little piece of a chorus or something that I'm trying to write, and I have the lyrics to. It's a cool little tag. I can't ever just write the lyrics without having a guitar with me or without playing something on the piano to fit with it. I have to, like, if I'm writing, I have to find the key of that song immediately. You know, it's just like, it doesn't have a home if I can't find the key. It's like just words on a piece of paper. But I would say usually it's some music, just because I'm so music centric, you know.
Makes sense. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And so, speaking of the music, but when it comes to the instrumentation or the lyrics in your songs, do you have any, other artists or genres that you draw like inspiration from?
Definitely. Oh, so many I couldn't tell you. I know that there's guys in the scene, like the scene referring to like the Red Dirt Texas country music scene. There's guys who I'm really inspired by that don't necessarily rub off, but I'm inspired by the product that they're bringing to market that makes me want to make my product the best that it can be. Guys like Hayden Baker and Scotty Alexander and Curtis Grimes, they bring the A game to the Texas country music scene. But as far as like artists that I listen to, I couldn't even tell you what my Spotify looks like right now. It's just all over the place, all of the time. But of course, I'm a huge John Mayer fan. I love the intricacies of his music and where he has his hand in every part of it. You know, most people just know like the hit songs that he's written.
Yeah.
But I enjoy more going into the song credits and saying, oh my God, he played keyboard on that, on his own song, you know, in New York, and then they cut this, and he played this in Los Angeles. Like, I think that's just really neat. Guys who bring the musical aspect of it, as well as the vocals, because a lot of people can go behind a band and go into a studio in Nashville and they can sound really good. But it's almost a different artist entirely to be involved on the musical side of things.
Speaking of inspiration for your music and stuff, do you have any role models, whether they're musical, figures or other public figures, people in your everyday life?
Sure. I think Dad, just because, he's Dad. Dad always takes the cake. He's always the man. Curtis Grimes, as far as I start to notice things a little different now, like becoming like the full extent of a man and getting married, like realizing the value and somebody being just a good solid dude and just trying to be the best husband and father and Christian that he could be. On that aspect, I very much look up to Curtis. On the musical side of things, again, the list goes on forever. There's so many guys who I admire and I strive to be like in certain aspects. But yeah, I don't know. I think my dad and Curtis probably take the cake for guys I look up to.
So how does your faith intersect with your music or with your life in general?
Right.
Would you say?
So it's some of these places we play are really dark, and people are really hurting, and they're there looking for something. There's always a hole, whether it's a heartbreak, or as simple as a heartbreak, or serious trauma. People are there trying to forget about something or have a good time, and that's just the only way they know how to have a good time. And I don't know, if they ever need some inspiration or they ever need some Jesus in them, that's about the place they need it most of the time. They're about to get in their car and drive away drunk, or they're just down on their luck for that night and want to get so sloppy they don't remember any of it, or they want to forget who they are. And a lot of pastors, a lot of folks won't go there to minister, because you're supposed to in some verses you're supposed to steer clear of the darkness, right? But
Yeah.
in other verses you're supposed to be the light in the darkness. You're supposed to be there. And so, even not preaching to folks directly, just being a light, and you have no idea how many people just their jaw drop when they ask us for the 50th time if we want to drink, and we say, oh no, we don't. We have to go home. This is our job. This isn't.
Yeah.
We're not here to party. We're here to work. But really, just being an example has been. I feel like that's more of the calling than from the microphone saying, turn or burn, y'all are fire and brimstone, y'all are sinners. But just trying to be there, and if somebody knows, like, we might be the only sober folks in the bar on any given night, me and my band. It just being the light for those people, or being of sound mind, going in there with the intention of, I know that my steps are ordered, and I know that I'm here for a reason. I know that there's somebody who might need to hear something, or there might be a particular reason that God put me here this time to talk to these people. Whether it's to plant a seed or water a seed or whatever it may be. But just knowing that it all has a purpose, and I don't know. It's definitely a weird job for the way that I feel about it, but it's pretty satisfying. You see some of these people. I saw a lot of it last year. I'll reference Curtis again in his worship set. You'd be just amazed how many people in the middle of a bar, they're plastered, and they're just worshiping their heart out, and they break down like they're at the altar at church. Because, they may need to hear it there more than... They're going to be asleep and hungover tomorrow morning. They're not going to be at church, but they are here in the bar tonight.
Yeah.
And anyway.
Well, that's a place to say it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Agreed.
Anyway, not to get too churchy on you, but...
No, not at all.
I think it speaks pretty heavy to, like kids. They may go see 100 bands, and 99 of those bands are going to get plastered, and all of the free drinks that are at the front of the stage they're going to drink. But I think it's cool to show little Timmy that you can put on a really good show, and you can leave people really happy, and you don't have to do any of that. You can drink your Red Bull and your water, and you can drive home safe.
Exactly, and especially if it's late at night, you should drink a Red Bull before you go driving.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Sponsored.
I wish. Red Bull, if you're listening to
No
this.
doubt.
I mean, yeah, what you're saying about setting a good example for even younger people. I haven't heard any lyrics in your songs that really refer directly to, like, drinking or partying, really. And that's a really huge topic with most newer country artists. It's all about, we had a party on Friday night. Beer can make the pain go away.
Right. Beer never broke my heart.
Yeah. Thank you.
Right.
It's all about...
That's exactly how it goes. No,
and
you're
it's
right.
all about partying. It's all about girls. And it's most of the time not really even about true love with girls anymore. It's just about going through them, which is really sad.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that stuff is really easy to write about. Like,
exactly.
I would have no problem just writing a bunch of drinking songs, because it's pretty easy to write about back roads and Bud Light and tight blue jeans, but I don't think there's much substance there,
Exactly.
Like, if you listen to my music, I most of it's pretty autobiographical, I'm writing like from the heart about what I'm thinking about, and I hope to have weight to that, to where if I am writing about me and my life, there's more to me in my life than getting hammered and stuff with women, like.
Yeah.
It's like real heartbreak stuff, like actual life struggles.
Absolutely. And so, as of right now, I believe, or as of when I wrote these questions last week, on Apple Music and Spotify, you have 2 EPs and 2 singles.
Yes, ma'am.
So this seems like it's just the beginning. Do you have any goals or plans for releasing your own music in the future?
Absolutely. So I've got, I'm following the tail of the 2 singles right now. The first one was The Right One, and that one got up to number 53 on the TRRR, which is like the Texas chart. I've got a song out to radio right now called Home. That's the second single. And I've got 2 singles coming after that, and by the time both of those run their duration, which is about 3 or 4 months on the Texas chart, so you can project that out as long as you want.
Yeah.
by the end of that last single, I would like to have another 6 songs recorded, so I could put the 4 singles that I have already with the other 6, and that would put together my first full-length record.
Wow.
And I've been sitting on that ticket of first record for a long time now, so I'm very excited to hopefully finally make that happen. And I think it's worth the wait of ever putting a full record together, because now we've gotten hooked up with some guys in Nashville who really just like give me the best product that I could ever ask for, and super great people, good Christian dudes, and the most talented artists and musicians you've ever met. So yes, ma'am. Yeah, that's the main goal, is by the time that last single, which will either be Just a Man or Alone for Long, if we're listening to this later. Hopefully by the end of those, spinning through Texas radio, I have a full-length record ready to go.
Awesome. All right. And when you release this record, I'm assuming it'll go on all of the musical platforms that you can listen to things digitally.
Absolutely.
But are you planning to do any like physical hard copy music distribution? Because vinyl records are really coming back. There's now lots of young collectors. The cassette tapes are coming back. CDs are still kind of in the background because the cassettes and vinyls look cooler, obviously.
Sure.
But do you have plans for that as well?
Yes, ma'am. So there's a bar in Mason, Texas, and I started playing out there when I was 17, something like that, 16 maybe. And from the very beginning, I became friends with the owner of that place. His name is Chase Crouch, and he told me way back then, when you have your first record, I'm paying for your first batch of vinyl. I want the very first one so I can hang it up on my wall. You can have all the rest of them. So 100% will have a batch of vinyl. I know Curtis just did some cassette tapes, so maybe that's something I should look into.
Yeah, that's really cool. All that retro stuff coming back.
Right.
I mean, there's better hardware, I guess, than ever to get that good quality sound.
Sure.
The crackling of the records,
right.
The spinning in the background on that cassette tape.
Yeah, no, I've got vinyls in my house for sure. I have a broken record player, but I have a ton of vinyls.
Oh my gosh, I'm in the same boat as you. My needle will scratch all my vinyls, so I have to.
My needle's just gone.
Sad story.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, brighten the mood, will you be playing throughout this summer anywhere in South Texas, I guess, in our general area?
Sure. I think we will have already played it by the time this airs, but this Saturday we're playing at the Bluebonnet Palace in San Antonio.
Okay.
We're headlining there. I'm very excited for that. My friend Dylan Riley's opening the show. And then throughout the summer, I think next week that'll be the 11th. We're going to be at the Rustic in San Antonio. Another really cool venue.
That's there in
the Rim. Yes, ma'am. And then after that, throughout this month that we've got a run, we're going to Houston. We'll be in Fredericksburg, all over the place.
Very cool.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
But you can stay up to date with all of those tour dates at lukepratermusic.com.
Cool.
And they're all on that little front page there.
Now, how about for people that maybe want to purchase some merch but can't make it out to a show? Do you have that available for sale anywhere?
Sure. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, you can go on the website or Facebook. Just shoot me a message, and we'll get it over to you.
Awesome. Good news.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. And so, outside of performing, we know you love the music, but what do you do when you're not on stage? In any free time that you maybe have between scheduling, which seems like it takes up a lot of your time. Do you have any hobbies or projects? Or even when you rewind, do you have like a go-to TV show? Do you like to read? Like, what's up?
There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot for sure. Let's see. So at the moment, we just got Hannah here moved back from Houston. So our hobby is unpacking boxes, and will be for the next little while. And then after that, it will probably be a deep clean of my house that I haven't been in for the last 6 months. Let's see. Other than that, shamefully, so we play Call of Duty, and that's only because she's okay with it. If she wasn't, then I wouldn't be the loser fiance who played Call of Duty. But because we do it together, it makes me feel better. We just got back from the lake, Lake OBJ. I like to wake surf.
Okay.
So we went up to Lake OBJ and did some of that this weekend. But if it was up to me, I'd be out there every single day getting my surf on. And then I love to fish. Getting Hannah into it, we put her on her first fish last year, I guess, and her whole Christmas, everything I got her was fishing related. She got a fishing pole and tackle box, so we got to put all of that to use now that we're back here in Lavernia. But I love fishing with my brother and my dad. My dad's got a bass boat that he just bought, so definitely some fishing folks.
That's fun.
Yes,
All
ma'am.
right. And so, Hannah, did you like to fish before you met Luke?
I think I had tried to fish at church camp, but never really. So that was the first time I'd ever caught a fish, and I was so proud of it. And I look at that picture often. But, so no, I did not used to fish before.
Well, that's real sweet. More hobbies that y'all can do as a couple.
She was so freaking happy.
I
got a fish.
love that. Yeah, your first fish is a big moment.
It is.
It really
monumental.
It was awesome.
And I'm sorry, I keep going back to y'all's love story.
No.
I'm in love with y'all.
Oh.
I love it.
No, I'm very happy to be here.
Can y'all send us pictures from your wedding or something?
Sure.
So excited for y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Of course. And I know you mentioned earlier that you listen to all kinds of music. But do you have an all-time favorite artist?
Mark Wills.
Okay.
Absolutely. And that's funny, when I was reading your questions earlier, I told her, it's funny because verbatim, I say before one of my songs in the set, the song's called High Low In Between. This is by one of my all-time favorite artists, a guy named Mark Wills. And he is hands down my all-time favorite artist. Just voice. I told my dad one time, I think when we get to heaven, the archangels are going to sound like Mark Wills. He's just the best vocals, the best country music. He's going to take the cake for me, for sure.
Awesome. All right, and having been exposed to so many genres of music, I mean, classic rock from your dad, you've obviously got the mainstream radio pop that's on in the car, what made you choose country as your genre?
Probably where I grew up and the influence of my brother and all. I think at a certain point I took a liking of my own to it. I enjoy the wholesome aspect of what's the Craig Morgan song about what I love about Sunday? I love that family dynamic, just good Christian folks. That's me. That's just I don't want anything crazy. I just want to be a good Christian man with my little happy family. So I think I've always been that way, and so I just kind of naturally gravitated. And then of course the Blue Bonnet Fest was a big deal in Lavernia when I grew up. When I was growing up, I don't think that happens anymore, but
just the parade, I think.
Yeah. Not the whole. But I remember Kyle Park being out there when I was a kid, and seeing all my friends and peers. Everybody's Kyle was the man there, and the scene has a pretty heavy influence around here, in our neck of the woods, South Texas. I guess all over Texas, but I don't know. That seemed to be the thing around here, and that seemed like something I wouldn't mind putting my foot in or jumping into,
Cool. All right. Good answer.
Thank you.
All right. So, last but not least, to wrap up all of the questions, I thought we'd end with a bucket list type question.
Bucket list.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, do you have any venues or events that you would love to play at some point in your lifetime? You can shoot big, or you can even say some small town venue. What do you got?
Absolutely. I have a list on my phone it's called a life list. I was doing an interview one time and the guy was like, don't call it a bucket list because you're dead when it's a bucket list. You call it a life list. You want it done in your life. You want to enjoy it. So Whitewater Amphitheater in New Braunfels. Right. I've been to so many concerts out there. That's just I don't care if I'm the very bottom underneath all of the dudes on the 1 o'clock slot. That is perfectly fine with me. That'd be awesome. There's a place called Red Rocks in Colorado. I'd love to even just see. Never been. It looks amazing, and it's on the list. And then probably the Grand Ole Opry. I went there. I went and stood in the circle one time when I was a kid, and I think that's anybody's goal playing country music. It's the
Absolutely.
Mecca, you know.
It is the Mecca of country music.
Yes, ma'am.
That's awesome. All right. Well, thank you for the life list. Not life list, my bad.
Absolutely.
But yeah, we all here, especially me and Hannah, of course, I'm sure, hope that you get there.
Well,
But
awesome.
especially us
Well,
at the
thank you.
Wilson County News, we really wish you good luck.
Well, thank you
For
very
sure.
much for having me.
Of course, and thanks for coming. Thanks for, making the time in your very busy schedule. I mean, man, I can't believe that you actually were able to come this week. You're getting married later this week.
It worked
I would
out.
be out of my mind.
No.
Yeah.
Very happy. It worked out just fine. Thank you for having me.
Of course. All right. Well, thank you all for listening in to the Artist Review, and we hope to see you on our next episode. Don't forget to follow us on whatever platform you are listening to this podcast today. And you can also find more information about Luke Prater in his article, which will run June 2022, in the Wilson County News Arts and Entertainment section at wilsoncountynews.com. Cool. Yay!
That's a wrap.